Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. It had been a long week, and I was eager to relax at home with a cold beer and maybe some pizza. Setting my suitcase by the door, I headed to the kitchen for my first drink. The house felt eerily quiet as I opened the beer bottle. That's when I noticed the dog was gone, which was rather strange. Normally, she greeted me at the door with a low growl and a fierce display of teeth. I had even started carrying treats in my pockets to bribe her into letting me in. How did I end up with a dog that seemed to hate me? Pondering this, I began searching the room for her. Suddenly it hit me. It had been about 5 weeks since my wife brought the dog into the house. Jack's dog. Well, technically Ryan's dog, but for now, we were keeping her. "She's really sweet once you get to know her," my loving wife had said when the dog sniffed my leg. I wondered why. If I had wanted a dog, I would have picked a Labrador, I muttered, pushing Jack away from my leg. "Jack, come," my wife Sarah commanded when the dog clung a bit too tightly to my leg. At her command, Jack loosened her grip, but kept her muzzle uncomfortably close to my bleeding leg. "Ryan trained her well. She listens to me perfectly. I think having her around will make me feel safe, especially at night." "Really? Why can't Ryan just keep her at his place?" I asked, rolling up my pants to check the puncture wounds on my leg. "I don't need this dog. Hell, she bit me." "If you're kind to her, she won't bother you," someone replied. According to Ryan, this breed has gotten a bad reputation due to a few irresponsible owners who improperly train their dogs. Ryan can't take her back because he has an adult dog at home. At one point, his dog almost attacked Jack, but Ryan managed to stop it in time. He believes it's better to keep them apart until Jack matures. It's up to him when Jack will be ready to meet another dog. "I really don't understand why we need to keep such a fierce dog just because your boss is foolish enough to own one," I grumbled, feeling my frustration grow. "Tell Ryan I'm absolutely against this." In response, Sarah smiled slyly. "Well, you kicked him, and Jack's been eyeing you like a hawk ever since you didn't realize what happened. The dog stays. Besides, I promised Ryan she could live with us." Around the house, I had to move cautiously, avoiding sudden movements and staying away from my wife. The dog constantly watched her, its eyes fixed on me like a hawk waiting for prey. I always felt like Jack was just waiting for the slightest misstep to justify a bite. I felt like a ghost haunting my own home, trapped within its walls. I took a long, slow sip of my beer, scanning the stairs for any sign of the dog. The silence hung in the air, and the absence of my wife was deafening. As I stepped into the master bathroom, the unsettling truth unfolded before me. The floor was a grim canvas of dried blood. Crimson streaks trailed along the walls, a terrifying testament to the chaos. My heart raced when I noticed a small bag lying on my side of the bed, its contents, someone's male toiletries and clothes, spilling out like a sinister secret. The carpet bore incriminating tracks, and the bed was a haunting sight, stained with the remnants of whatever had transpired here. The beer was nearly finished, and I went downstairs to pour myself another, my mind swirling with confusion and dread. Just as I twisted the cap off the next bottle, the silence was broken by a knock at the door. Opening it, I found a man in a cheap suit, and his presence was more unnerving than the blood-stained room behind me. "May I come in and ask you a few questions? My name is Detective Belton. I won't take much of your time." He spoke calmly, but his words sent a chill down my spine. "Are you from Interpol?" I asked sharply, my voice tinged with alarm. "No," he replied, waving off my question. "And to be honest, I'm not interested in stolen DVDs. I'm focused on the violent assault that took place here this morning." "Well, since you put it that way, come in," I said, intrigued. "My priority is the brutal attack that occurred in your bathroom earlier today. I assumed you wouldn't be back until tomorrow." "That was the plan," I confessed. "But I finished my business early and caught an early flight this morning. How did you know about my plans, and what exactly happened here earlier?" I turned to the detective and asked my question. The only lesson I learned from that was not to ask 2 questions at once. The detective chuckled. reminiscing about the past. In the end, I'm the one asking the questions. So, how long have you owned a vicious dog? I've never had a vicious dog, I replied. Do you really think the dog you had wasn't vicious? The detective asked, raising an eyebrow. What kind of person are you? I noted that this was two questions. Such dogs are known for their aggression, and I'm completely impartial here. But if you're claiming it wasn't vicious, how can you be sure your dog isn't dangerous? The frustrated police officer chimed in. Again, two questions. It seems like you have a habit of doing that, I said calmly. I don't have a dog, so that should answer both your questions. So what caused this guy's injuries today? A mouse, perhaps? Belton cried out, his face turning red as beads of sweat formed on his forehead. Two questions again? You just can't help yourself, can you? I chuckled. Since I wasn't there and have no idea what you're talking about, I can't answer either of them. But I'm fairly sure the mice around here are all small and harmless. Damn it! The detective shouted. Why am I always stuck with these idiots? Why can't I get a simple case with normal people? I responded with a laugh. Those two questions were rhetorical, right? Listen here, smart guy, the officer snapped. I need straight answers to my questions. No more games or I'll drag you down to the station for this. He pulled a pill container from his pocket and shook out a couple of small capsules. Why don't you just ask me a direct question without all the opinions? You want to know about the poor dog living at this address? I shot back at the agitated detective. So you admit you have a dog? Belton asked, feeling a noticeable sense of relief. No, I don't. You're not very good at asking clarifying questions, are you? I retorted. The detective flared up, spitting with irritation all over the kitchen. I'll answer the question you seem unable to ask. It was my wife who took care of the wretched dog which belonged to her boss, Ryan Lee, I said calmly, wiping the foam from the detective's brow. The dog didn't belong to me, and I despised it just as much as it despised me. Gradually, Belton's face showed understanding. So this miserable, vicious dog lived in your house? Yes, she insisted on keeping it, so I didn't have much of a say, I explained, noticing my counterpart's growing excitement. Did you know your wife was having an affair with Lee? The detective asked, his tone almost flippant. I had guessed when Sarah came home with the dog named Jack. That must have upset you, Belton pressed. Not really, I replied. I chose to make the best out of a bad situation. At least it seemed to work out for me. How could you possibly benefit from your wife sleeping with her boss? The bulky detective demanded. I quickly realized the dog wasn't shy about snapping at me. Furthermore, I noticed that it would sniff my modesty every time I stepped out of the shower, which only deepened my anxiety and made me question many things. I think the dog started to grow attached to me. And how did your wife react? Asked the concerned detective. She was too preoccupied with her affair. Were you aware that Mr. Lee is known for his exceptionally large endowment? No, but I had my suspicions. The last few times I was close with my wife, it felt like walking through a long tunnel, I admitted, feeling slightly awkward. Did you ever consider the possible consequences of your wife's lover staying the night? Imagine him showering in your bathroom with the dog nearby. It could lead to some unpleasant outcomes. No, I hadn't thought about that at all, I replied, genuinely surprised. Is this related to what happened today? Absolutely. The dog bit off your wife's lover's endowment. What do you make of such a bizarre situation? I suppose you already have the answer to that, I said with a grin. After being married to this woman for 25 years, I now realize how blind I've been. I deeply regret wasting the best years of my life on such an ungrateful woman, but now it's settled. She's left without my wealth, without a husband, and with a lover who can't satisfy her. Amusing, isn't it? This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Once we had set up our dining room, we rarely used it, as we preferred the cozy atmosphere of the kitchen. This had been the case for quite some time. I placed our work desk there, and its richly decorated design provided ample space for everything I needed to organize. I must admit, I was a bit obsessed with cleanliness, and I loved the soft, diffused light that filled the room. Then she walked in, her new high heels clicking on the floor, announcing her presence. She called out to me, but I was focused on my work and didn't respond until I had finished. Finally, I enthusiastically shouted back, "I'm here! Could you come in for a minute?" Rolling her eyes, she stepped into the doorway. "What is it?" she asked, clearly in a hurry. I pulled her close and embraced her. At 47, tall and graceful, she had an attractive figure. Her chest was beautiful, not too large but very responsive. Having no children, she hadn't faced the struggles of post-pregnancy weight. Her weight was nearly the same as it had been when I married her 27 years ago. I always admired her chestnut hair, so I was a bit upset when she decided to go blonde 4 months ago. She looked a little cheap, though maybe I'm being biased. "I won't take long," I reassured her. "Besides, I have a feeling your meeting might get canceled. Let's go. I'll leave you in peace if you finish this up. You made it pretty clear where you'd prefer me to be." She dramatically sighed and rolled her eyes, taking a seat opposite me. "Thanks. As I said, I'll be brief. I want you to think carefully and be honest. This isn't just a hypothetical. Tell me in monetary terms, how much do you think intimacy with you is worth? Do you believe different acts have different values? I know that escorts have different rates. I'm not sure exactly how much women charge for their affections, but I imagine it's quite a bit. I'm seeking your help to establish a baseline. Consider it research. In your opinion, is your value closer to that of a courtesan, or more like a street worker? Perhaps I should find a middle ground. Should I take into account factors like enthusiasm, skill level, and various seductions, like lingerie, mood enhancers such as soft lighting and candles, or indulgences like strawberries and chocolate? I'm also considering the appeal of motel rooms and other similar options. That's the kind of perspective I'm aiming for in my overall evaluation. As I continued my monologue, I noticed her expression changing, her mouth slightly agape in disbelief. When I finally paused, hoping to give her a chance to respond, she quickly closed her mouth. "What are you talking about? This isn't funny, Donald. It's ridiculous." She used my full name, a clear sign she was irritated. If I kept pushing, she'd quickly transition to full-blown anger. "Oh, I get it, Sherry. It's absurd. Just like it's been absurd ever since you started flirting with Jameson." "So it's Jameson, is it? What a pretentious name. He's just a bumpkin in a suit. His friends call him Jimmy Jam, and that name fits him better." Her eyes narrowed. I could feel a storm brewing. "Go on, Mount St. Helens, erupt already. I've already told you nothing's going on between us. He doesn't even mean that much to me. Is that really what this is about? I swear, if you mention him one more time, I'm walking out of here." I couldn't help but smirk. Jameson, 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 Jimmy Jam. It sounds like a rapper's name, doesn't it? A backwoods rapper, Jimmy Jim Jameson, rhyming about his pickup truck, partying hard, and maybe even getting involved with married women. I see a bright future for him and lots of money. Surprise flashed across her eyes, and then they narrowed again, as if she was starting to understand what I was getting at. "I'm really sorry, Sherry. I got sidetracked and it won't happen again. Let's switch the subject back to something more practical. Honestly, I had my doubts about coming here at first, even though my career was going well. With each passing day, I appreciate this place more and more. Yesterday was pleasant, and I even played golf in the last week of February. I'm puzzled by the unpredictable weather, but I'm planning to stay here no matter what. And you know what I like most about this place? It's still possible to file an alienation of affection case here, which means you can sue someone for taking away your spouse. After all, this is one of the few states where it's still an option. Although it takes a unique set of circumstances to win and receive compensation, it's an intriguing possibility. That's why I dove into this research. I want to prepare a comprehensive report outlining the types of behavior in question, their frequency, and the methods I use to gather the data. I have a few video recordings and several witnesses, which should form a solid foundation for my conclusions. However, it would be very helpful if you could clarify how much you think a night with you is worth, almost like a consultation with an expert. My lawyer found my initial idea amusing, but ultimately acknowledged its potential significance, citing precedents. This could potentially change how people view this type of lawsuit. Raising the financial stakes might lead to more settlements, benefiting the lawyers and making it easier for judges to determine appropriate financial payouts. I need your cooperation on this matter. Otherwise, my lawyer will make sure your involvement is outlined in detail, step by step. These are the kinds of statements I want to hear, and you should consider the small advantages you might gain. Once the separation and divorce papers are signed, the clock on any expenses will stop. We won't even bother you with serving official notice. It's simple enough. Just visit his office. Think in advance about how much you and Jameson can save on gas and hotel expenses if you start living together. By the way, he does have a spare bedroom if he can convince his wife to agree. Incidentally, I've shared my findings with her, and she plans to use them in her case against you, so you might want to meet somewhere else. You could even split the attorney's fees with her. His eyes fell on Sherry, unconscious on the dining room floor. It wasn't so much a fall as it was like a balloon deflating as she sank down. So much for being an expert consultant, but that didn't matter anymore. The documents I prepared speak for themselves. I printed out my research, neatly folded it into a folder, and placed it on her chest. She'll find it as soon as she comes to. In the meantime, my lawyer, Mrs. Jimmy Jem, and I are off to dinner at the best BBQ spot in town. I hope Sherry understands that once the door closes behind her today, there's no turning back. I need to change the locks. Honestly, it's gotten to the point where I can't even enjoy a meal. Sherry's called 10 times, and I've had to mute her. At that moment, Mrs. Jimmy Jem was telling one of her funny stories about her wandering husband. She mentioned that she's considering writing a book called Life with a Dog. It turns out Sherry isn't the only one in his life. She offered to give me the addresses of the other wives so I could share my plan with their husbands once mine is ready. After all, we wouldn't want everyone flipping the script at the same time, right? I refocused on her story. Things were far from simple. Sherry wasn't ready to end the marriage. She was genuinely remorseful, insisting it would never happen again, and that she had learned from her mistakes. For 5 months, she fought to save the relationship, but eventually, she gave in, signed the divorce papers, and went back home. By the time the process started, Jameson had attracted media attention, and the judge, an eccentric old-timer with 2 ex-wives, allowed me to testify as a witness. The courtroom burst into laughter when he tried to blend into the background. Surprisingly, he turned out to be quite wealthy, owning half a car dealership, and I ended up receiving a larger settlement than expected. Mrs. Jameson got the house and a quarter of the dealership. When it was all over, she shared my findings with the other 3 husbands, and it turned out he was lucky to keep his job as a car salesman rather than owning a stake in the dealership. For almost 3 years, I avoided women until I met a fiery redhead from the countryside, a widow with 2 young sons. I started coaching her kids in soccer when a friend convinced me to give it a try. At first, things didn't click between us, but over time we grew warmer toward each other. She often teased me about my chivalrous gestures in public, like holding doors open, pulling out chairs at restaurants, and always being attentive in social settings. She kept joking until our 3rd date when I finally lost my patience. I told her, if you don't like being treated like a lady, that's your choice. But if you're with me, I will treat you that way. If you want to be treated poorly, go back to where you came from. She looked confused but quietly waited for me to open her car door, and we drove home in silence. Later, as I walked her to her door, she apologized. I did my best to explain my point of view. I was raised with certain values. My grandfather believed that women should be treated with respect, in public, like a lady, in private, like a partner, and of course he had his own views on intimacy. Your eyes glimmer in the moonlight, and if I were to be in a relationship with you, how would I engage with you in that intimate space? I would cherish you as an incredible individual, focusing on making our time together truly unforgettable. My goal is not dominance or control, but rather to be a lover who leaves you completely fulfilled. But I feel we haven't reached that moment yet. Do you know what might be holding you back, my dear? Overthinking. The next morning we were late picking up the boys, and her mom gave us a knowing smile. A year later, when we gathered them around the table to share the news that in 5 months I would be their new dad, they burst out in joy. We had a playful relationship, and I joked with the eldest, telling him he would be the one to carry the ring. The youngest was curious to know what his role would be. "What will my part be?" he asked. I replied, "Well, we'll need a flower girl." "Mommy, Daddy wants me to be the flower girl," he exclaimed. I reassured him, "You'll look absolutely stunning in the dress." He seemed on the verge of tears, so I took him into my arms and sat him on my lap. "I was just kidding, son. How about you carry the ring and your brother will be the best man?" No one objected, and that's exactly how it went. 5 years later, it's amusing to hear them grumble about having to look after their little sister. After that, I never saw Sherry again. According to my older brother, she lived alone and worked 2 jobs to support herself. After the divorce, it was as if she disappeared. And you know what? I don't regret for a second that Sherry cheated on me and our marriage ended. I'm even grateful to her because now I'm truly happy with the woman who gave me a daughter. The only thing I regret is wasting 27 years on someone who didn't deserve me. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.